In the realm of Toril, in the Black Mountains, large mountainscapes that seem to reach to the end of the known world on the horizon. Deep within those mountains lies the dwarven kingdom of Huvar, ruled by King Huvar III. The last 10 years have been plagued by war. Now remembered as the year of rain of the calendar year of Toril 728, heavy blankets of rain began to fall without stop. Soon crops failed, areas flooded, even the dwarven chamber halls flooded. Food shortages and dwindling resources ultimately led to war among kingdoms. For 10 years the war raged on, until the waters subsided. Peace treaties at that point were forged, and the kingdoms seemed to be getting back to their former glory. That was until the winter of 738. The high priest of the Dwarven kingdom observed a strange star conjuncture in the night sky, and strange green lights that seemed to dance on the horizon. Lights he has never seen before, warning the king of an impending omen. At first the king ignored it, but then soon after, heavy fog blankets began to form on the mountain peaks, and as the winter set in and the heavy snows fell, and the stinging of the biting, squeezing cold that seemed to grip the land in a season of death, soon fell underneath a blanket of white. Many couldn't discern where the fog stopped and the snow began. The snows were deep, the fog was thick. People began to go missing. Commoners, soldiers, merchants, all of them which have never been seen nor heard from again. The king could no longer ignore this problem at his doorstep. It was at that point that he had ordered search parties sent out on the tradeway route leading to the kingdom. He also had bonfires built every couple of miles, so the light would be visible for miles during day nor night. And he also ordered that parties at that point maintain the fires. Unfortunately, as time went on, people began to go missing. With no answers and this endless winter that seemed to be sweeping the land, it was at that point that the king had no choice but to send out more search parties. This is where the story begins for my adventurers. The fighter Rajon, dwarven fighter known for his skill with a dwarven battle axe in battle. Zakyle, the cleric, following the divine guidance of the temple priest and understanding the severity of this omen which grips the land and the evil which plagues it. And Talu, dwarven assassin, close to the king, normally reserved for only special occasions and special needs, but it was at this point that the king had no choice but to send him out on this mission to see if he could get answers, much needed answers he didn't have for his people, for questions. And as tempers flare within the kingdom and people become more scared, the adventurers step out into the blinding white fog banks of Toril. the king's command, my party of adventurers step out of the dwarven halls into the bitter, blistering, cold, foggy mist of the outside in the Black Mountains and begin their journey towards the first bonfire that they can see that is pretty far off into the distance. And one thing that I am currently doing with this particular system, just because they are walking through the mist, is there's always a chance that they can get lost into the mist. So I took that into account, and I have to do a wisdom save of a DC 11 or better, or against my wisdom attribute, to see if they get lost into the mist or if they stay on, because after all, this is they are in a very dangerous predicament, but they don't know it at this point. So first things first, I have my fighter currently leading the way through these frozen lands, and let's see how he fares. So his wisdom, he gets a +1 bonus to it, and I gotta have an 11 or better. Ooh, okay, not good. So after a couple of hours of travel, it's at that point that my characters more or less realize that, well, the bonfire is no longer within their sight. As a matter of fact, they got lost in the blowing snow, the heavy fog, and the mist that surround them. And they are way, way off track. Let's see what happens. And alright, what they are going to encounter. The mists. That's never good. Okay. So, let me roll a 1d4 on my little chart here, and number 2. Nice. Okay, as my characters are tromping through the snow, trying to more or less figure out their bearings and where they are at, something is closing in on them quite rapidly at this moment. So before so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to roll for the encounter first, and of course they do get tracked. But they're not doing that well. Not rolling a 3 anyway. Fighter. Oh. It's at that point my assassin hears and brings it to their attention that he hears a familiar sound surrounding him. The sound of howling. And it's at that point he is going to ready his crossbow, and he makes the notion to his companions that they may want to ready their weapons as well. So let's see here. Okay, I know how I want to do this now. So as Talu is at that point readying his crossbow, putting the bolt in, and now all of them can hear the howl of the wolves as they are closing in around them. And their vision is very limited for the fact of the blowing snow and these heavy, thick, foggy mists that just keep rolling by. So, first thing I have to do, since Talu actually heard these things and was pretty well, how do I put this, keen to their presence, I'm going to give him first dibs on seeing if he can actually spot these things. Now he is going to get a +1 because he's got a +1 to his wisdom. Oh, no, he does not. Okay, so he does not see it. He is just currently scanning the area around him. He's got his crossbow ready. He's looking. He's ready to fire at anything. So now I'm going to move off to my fighter, Rajon, who is currently right here. Let's see what he gets. Oh, man. Nope. He's not seeing anything. He is pretty well snowblind at this point. And then, of course, my cleric, Zekiel. Nope. Ooh, this is going to be bad. Okay, so unfortunately, none of them have spotted what's moving in on them. They can hear them. They're aware of their presence, so they're not completely caught off guard, but they can't see them either, which is really bad because that means the encounters are going to get the first round of the attack here. And this wolf is going to move in first for the attack. Oh, wow, that hurts. That definitely hurts. Yeah. Oh, man. So before Rajon can actually comprehend what is happening to him, out of the foggy mist, a wolf comes charging, and at that point lunges and boom, bites onto his leg, and is ferociously, at that point, its jaws have locked into his flesh, digging in, and it's broken the skin and is trying to wrestle him to the ground. It's at this point they can hear more wolves in the distance begin to howl and move in around them. Okay, so I'm going to give Rajon first. I'm going to give him the opportunity to be able to defend himself, so let's do that first. Okay, he gets a +1 to hit. He does have a battle axe. Man, okay. These dice are not working for me tonight. So, unfortunately, as he swings his battle axe to try to cut this wolf off of him that is just trying to tear his leg from his body, he is unable to do so. The pain is just so intense at that point. He's doubling over from the pain and trying to maintain his balance as best as he can. And yeah, he's going to take 6 hit points of damage from that as well. Ugh. Okay. Talu, since he already has his crossbow prepared and ready, and he can now obviously see the wolf that is attached to his companion here, he is going to fire his crossbow at him, and hopefully... Oh, yes. Yep, he got it. Rolled a natural 20 there. 1d10 plus 2 to that. Okay, so... Not bad. He fires a crossbow bolt, and as it punctures into the wolf yelps and releases Bjorn's leg to, at that point, to, or at least he can get into a defensive position and try to at least be able to defend himself. Zakail, the cleric, now what is he going to do? What am I going to do with the cleric? Well, I think this early into the game, but I don't think I'm going to have much of a choice. I'm going to cast Sound Burst, which is going to create, obviously, a burst of sound that's going to come out, and it's going to cause 1d8 damage. So, that will be his turn, casting that. And okay, so now that that is done, I got these other 3 wolves that have now begun to move in and charge towards the party. Boom, boom. Now, let me see how I want to do this. So, the first attack against the cleric here is a miss. The second attack against the assassin is a hit, and of course my poor fighter here, I'm hoping he doesn't get... Both of them have been attacked by the wolves and bitten. So let's resolve the rogue first. Yeesh. So the wolf lunges in at that point as Zakail, not Zakail, he's my cleric, but Talu, the assassin, he is preparing his crossbow to put another bolt in. A wolf comes in and grabs a hold of his arm, and as he's struggling with this thing to get free, it's just tearing into his arm. Unfortunately, poor Bjorn here, oh man, that poor guy. Let's see what's gonna happen to him. Oh my god. Oh. So to their, how do I put this? To their fright, I should say, they witness their companion at that point because he's gotten attacked by him. And let me see if this wolf latches on as well. He does. And yeah. So it's at that point, they watch as their fighter is getting torn to shreds, literally in between two wolves that are just thrashing and pulling my fighter limb from limb on the snowy ground, as his blood at that point is turning the snow red. And that sucks. The cleric's gonna have his job cut out for him for this one. Oh my god. Okay, so since the cleric was not attacked and his spell goes off, I'm going to, at that point, cast that first. And so first thing is I gotta figure out the DC here. So we'll have to have a 14 or better to be able to physically save from that. So it does 1d8. Okay, so Wolf 1. Nope, he's going to take 5 points. Wolf 2. He withstands it. Wolf 3. He's going to take 5 points of damage because he's going to be right here in this vicinity of that. So Wolf 1. Wolf 2 actually saved. Wolf 3. So as the sound wave goes out and boom, at that point pushes the snow in what can be seen as this large sphere of sonic boom moving across the landscape and even blowing the snow off the trees from what they can see. This wolf is totally incapacitated and is just at that point barely able to move, yelping. This wolf has sustained some pretty serious injuries and at that point is limping away, yelping as well. Now what I want to know are these two with these wolves, are they going to stay or are they going to retreat? So let's see what they are going to do there. And I'm going to use the same save basically to see if they roll. No, number 4 fails, and number 2. Number 2 and number 4 at that point turn and begin to bolt out of the area. So they go right off the map. The only ones that are left at that point are the 2 wounded ones. Oh, thank God for clerics. Okay. My assassin. Yes. He does have a hand axe. I think with his good hand, because the fact that his other arm has been attacked and it's wounded, I'm going to drop the crossbow and just throw my hand axe at the wolf that's right here yelping and horrendously trying to tend to its wounds. So let's see how that goes. Oh, yes, it hits. It hits. Doesn't kill the wolf, but the axe does. Boom! It cracks right into the animal, wounding it, and the blood is visible now as it's starting to soak its fur coat. And at this point, it's yelping and trying to crawl away and get out of the area. It knows, it's pretty much on the losing end of this battle. Now, what I have to figure out here, I have to see how far gone my fighter is. I'm going to roll against his constitution. It's a 16, so if I get below a 16, my cleric will have a chance to be able to save him. If it's above a 16, at that point his injuries are just too grievous and there's not a whole lot that can be done. A 2, okay. So that was the cleric went, that was the assassin. The wolves at that point, their turn is going to be just trying to get out of the area of what they can. This wolf is completely incapacitated and is on its side currently bleeding out, and this one is just trying to limp away and get out of the area with a hand axe that has been thrown and stuck into it. At that point, my cleric is going to have to do some healing and cure light wounds, 1d8 HP. Hopefully it's an 8. No. Well, I'll take it for what it is. So he surveys Bjorn's wounds and sees how just serious his leg is ripped open, how much blood he's lost, and does his best, what he can, to focus all of his divine energy into healing him. Luckily, his hard work does pay off, although he's not 100%, but he is alive. Unconscious, but he is alive. And now, it's my assassin's turn. Even though his arm is wounded, his legs aren't. And he still has a couple of tricks up his sleeve. I got some daggers. And I do have a range of 10 on them. I'm going to take a step forward and I'm going to throw a dagger so that wolf doesn't get too far with my hand axe. Let's see how this works out. Oh yes, a 17. Right on. Okay. Fortunately, I gotta roll really well. This D4. 1 plus 1 is a 2. Well, it's only got 2 hit points left, so that's all I need. At that point, my assassin, as he steps up, he whips the dagger, and the sudden quick sound of a yelp, and at that point, the wolf is completely done at that point, and he is able to retrieve both his dagger and his hand axe from the animal. Okay. Oh. Well. Here is the real Man, I did not expect this game session to go like this right off the bat this quick, man. That went downhill really fast. But hey, it is Ravenloft. What do you expect? So, I'm gonna see if they can forage and at least find some decent firewood. Let me see what the percentages of that are. Relatively very low. All the wood is either frozen or there's not enough dead wood around them to be able to ignite to get a decent fire going. So it's at that point they find themselves at that point nestled underneath these pine trees and make themselves a little makeshift fort to at least block down some of the wind and what have you, and just get out of the elements and hunker down for the evening. Okay. At that point, it's taken them an hour to get their makeshift camp, if you will, all set up. Get Bjorn in a somewhat stable and protective environment to where he can actually begin to heal for the evening. And they attend to wrapping up Talu's wounds on his arm to where at least he can use that somewhat. It's at that point Talu's going to take first watch, and let's see how many hours pass by and how that works. Okay, so 4 hours have passed. It's now well into getting into the late evening hours. It is dark. Even his low light vision being dwarf where he is with all the fog and the snow, it's heavy to see, but the dark only makes it just a little bit worse. So let's roll the percentage die and let's see. So if I get a high percentage, there's a high probability of an encounter, a low percentage, and low probability. 67%. That's a pretty high probability. Alright, let's go to the encounter table. 3. Oh man, isn't this going to be interesting? As Talu is at his post and he is surveying the area, doing his job to make sure they are safe, I have to roll and see if he notices this. Nope, he does not, which is good. So to him, everything seems, and I'll explain this in a moment, everything seems normal, quiet, and nothing to worry about. So, let's see. Another 3 hours have passed. Let me roll my percentage die. 31%, nothing. So we're into the 7th hour. And an hour later, which will make 8 hours. 50%, which is no encounter. So it's at that point when the sun begins to come back up again, and he at that point notices something peculiar over here in this area. And at that point, I think I'm going to go and investigate that to see exactly what it is he has seen. So with my hand axe in hand, he cautiously, movement of 20, so he's got 5, 10, 15, 20. Let me see if he spots it. Oh yeah, he sees it now. So as he gets about halfway across this valley area, it's at that point he notices something very familiar that the wind has uncovered. And as he approaches even closer, he finds one of the missing merchants that went missing very early, that never came back into the mist, frozen solid. And it appears, which kind of makes him question, he's in the same spot as they are when they got lost. And it appears that this NPC just more or less was exhausted and sat down and pretty much, well, died. Now, here's the point. I'm going to roll my percentage die and see if there's anything worth of value on it. 51%. It's pretty low. So, as Talu looks over the body, if you will, he doesn't really see too much in the line that's worth anything on him. It looks like the merchant probably got separated from his wagon or the caravan he was with, and at that point just pretty much, well, perished out here in the cold and the mists. Now it's sunlight, and since he is out, I'm going to do another skill check, which will have to be an 11 or better, which will be a will save to see if he does at that point be able to recognize where he is at or identify maybe a bonfire off the tradeway. And he does. So where he is at, he is able to get his bearings. He knows at this point where he's at and where they have to go to get back to the tradeway. Now, let's see how many hours that's going to take. That's going to be a 4-hour hike from their current location. But, you know what? It's well worth the time. So, I want to see how... I want to see how my other character is going to react at this point. So Talu returns back to the camp, and he finds Zikyle at that point just finishing up his morning prayer and attending the wounds of Bjorn. And he's explaining to him what he has just found in the snow, and he has also seen he got a glimpse of one of the bonfires, and they can see where they have to go to get back onto the tradeway. So I'm going to roll against his wisdom score here. It's a 16, 13, so not wisdom, I'm sorry, charisma, wrong ability. But doesn't regardless, I got it anyways. So it's at that point, Zikyle is Zakiel, I don't know why I keep saying that. Zakiel is he's pretty excited, and he's taking this as good news, and at that point he's offering some of his words of philosophical wisdom to him that the gods have at this point. led them here for protection and underneath their God's protection. And this was, if it was without holy intervention, it would have never happened this way. So, here, this is going to be the fun part. So at this point, let me see if they are able to find some basic items to be able to fashion a makeshift gurney, if you will, to be able to carry Bjorn. Okay, so it's low, but it's not too low. It's 56%. So they are able to find some sapling branches and stuff such as that to where they're able to make a makeshift gurney out of what they have to split the load up, if you will, and begin the trek towards the tradeway. So at that point, now, let's see here. It's a 4-hour hike from their position to get to where they're at. So first hour, no encounters. Second hour, there is an encounter. Third hour, another encounter. And then the fourth hour. Okay. So after a couple of hours of trekking through blinding snow and fog and this miserable cold weather, it's at that point that they begin to find other tracks in the snow that are pretty fresh tracks, but by looking at the shape and direction of them, they know they're not exactly human or dwarf or even elvish tracks at that point. They're a little bit larger, and by looking at them, as a matter of fact, I'm going to see if... Okay. I'm going to do an intelligence roll. He's got a 13. I'm going to see if he can identify the tracks by looking at them. Okay. No. He studies the tracks. He knows they're not human, but he also knows he just isn't sure as to what they are. So, as they are continuing on heading towards their destination, it's at that point the thing making the tracks, they finally bridge that gap between your travel and catch up with it. Now, here is going to be the interesting thing, because I'm going to have to see if they get the drop on this thing or if it gets the drop on them. Okay, so I'm going to roll a 20-sider for this thing, 13, and I'm going to roll assassin first. Nope. And then for my cleric to see if he notices it. No. Unfortunately, they do not get drop on them. It's the other way around. So as they're lumbering across the snow and they're moving towards their destination, let's see who this thing's going to go after. So I'm going to roll a die. 1 through 3 will be my cleric, 4 through 6 will be my assassin. 6, of course, the assassin. Alright. It's at that point, he is caught off guard. He's got both hands on these saplings that they have this makeshift gurney, and as he's moving, and the next thing he knows, he's confronted with, well, the thing that's been making the tracks. And this big, ugly orc comes stepping out from the foggy mists, and it does not look, as a matter of fact, too happy to see him, and is wielding a weapon that it is swinging in his direction. And let's see what happens, because this is not going to be good. Alright. Whew. Thank God. So as the orc winds up with this crude weapon and is like, Zakail, quick on his feet, is able to let go of the branches of the gurney, let it fall, and move out of the way of the incoming attack. Now, they get to go toe to toe, and I think the best thing I can do right now is my hand axe, which I am going to use. Oh man. As Talu comes back up for the attack, swinging his hand axe, the orc is at that point is able to parry the attack, and at that point they begin to face off one another, kind of sizing one another up and getting their stance before they actually get into the battle. The orc winds up again and swings. Talu is able to, at that point, duck beneath his attack and returns with his hand axe. Let's see how he does. Oh yeah, 17. I guess I probably could move this. I guess I don't need to. I'll just leave this right where it's at. Alright. 17 and 1d6 plus 1. At that point, he comes in with the hand axe and just buries it into this thing's chest, and a surprised look comes over the orc's face at that point as it realizes that it's going to die, and slumps to its knees as Talu kicks the thing backwards, retrieving his hand axe from the chest. Now, here's the thing. Let's see if this thing has anything interesting on it that we might be able to use. Of course not. Very low. 33%. So, that's a good thing. So, as they continued their trek, at that point, back to the bonfire, they make their way through this very exhausting travel across these open areas back to the tradeway, and at that point, let me roll my percentage to see what kind of bonfire we reach here. 11%. All right. As they reach the remnants of the bonfire, it's at that point they expect to find people, but unfortunately they find that the fire is almost out. There are no NPCs to be found or any evidence they have been there recently, and the rations that have been at that point placed there for the NPCs have all been depleted. But the one thing that they do have, however, is firewood, and the fire coals are still hot, so this is a welcomed change for them. As at that point they throw some wood onto the fire, stoke it up, and get the bonfire built back up to get some warmth and to warm themselves up from being out in this bitter, blistering cold. Okay, I think I'm going to end this session right here for right now and pick up on this a little bit later. So far, so good. So far, I like it. I have to admit, it's pretty interesting and true to the Ravenloft way, is proving to be pretty lethal. Alright folks, if you enjoyed the video, click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Click the bell icon if you haven't already to get notified of my video uploads so you don't miss one. Alright my friends, until the next game session, this is Artichoke Dip signing off.